Normally we bring in our guy, Jermaine Stafford, but I think Jermaine has taken advantage of a little bit of the spring break situation. A lot of schools are doing that the same. Baseball teams are traveling everywhere. So I reached out to one baseball coach who I usually hang out with every spring. Spoiler, he gave me the hat right here. And we're going to bring in University head coach Casey Miller. Casey, I know you've got practice at 12:30, so thanks for making some time with us.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a pleasure to be on the show with you gentlemen.
We're happy to have you.
Your first overstatement of the day, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's okay. We can always regress back. But we want to set the bar high.
Always set the bar high. In all the time that you and I have talked together, I think the one thing that I really don't know is your general background in what you did baseball-wise growing up and how you ended up getting into the job at university and thriving the way that you have. So where does your baseball journey begin?
I'm from a small town in northeastern Colorado called Wiggins, Colorado. So good old Wiggins Tigers is where I graduated from. Out of high school, I played junior college baseball in Colby, Kansas. And then after Colby, I finished up my education at Metro State in downtown Denver.
And then what brought you, at what point did you know you wanted to jump into the coaching world?
In high school, actually, I had a really good high school coach, Josh Langford. He's currently the head coach in Fort Morgan still. He was a Colby alumni, so that was kind of my dream to follow in his footsteps. And then just a really good role model at a young age. And when I was at Metro State, my wife took a job at CSU, and so that's what took us to Northern Colorado. And then I was an assistant coach for Brad Deal over at Windsor for 5 years. While I was his assistant coach, I was teaching at university schools in Greeley. And then when the university job opened up in 2018, I jumped on it and was hopeful they would give me the opportunity, and they did, and it's been great since. Just being in building with elementary kids and seeing them grow up to high school kids, because we're a K-12 charter school there.
Coach, a couple of questions. One a little bit random, but when you said your time frame, I was curious if you played baseball at Metro with Jared Devine.
I actually did not play at Metro.
Okay.
I had a workout with them and Coach Perico. They offered me a walk-on spot, and when I weighed my options of how do I pay my rent, how do I pay for food and insurance, baseball at Metro State in 2005 wasn't going to get me that, so I had to join the workforce, and so unfortunately didn't get to play for the Roadrunners, but big fan of their program.
Well, next question, and this is kind of, you talk about Wiggins and where you're at now, obviously, but like, what is it about baseball in that part of the state? It seems like consistently it just turns out good players, good teams. I mean, and even if we're talking about clubs, I know that a lot of the players that are part of some really successful clubs come from that area of the state. What do you think it is culturally, facilities, tradition? I'm not really sure, but it sure seems like that's the case in that part of the state.
I just think it's the popularity of the sport altogether. When I was growing up, and this was decades ago, we just played for our hometown team, and you took pride in playing for your high school team in the summer. But now there's just so much more talent that they need to be showcased all over the state, if not all over the country. And so just the popularity of the game is growing, and that's exactly what we want in the baseball community. And so I think it's good for everyone, and it makes high school baseball super competitive at all levels.
I think back to 2018. I was up there for that first state championship win that you guys had. You went back to back. And then we'll ask you about this one in a minute. I think that 2020 team had a shot to do something very, very special. But you've been in that state championship game now 6 of the last 7 years where we've played spring sports, not counting the COVID year. But what goes into building that kind of culture and making sure that you're getting that turnover in talent that, when a senior class leaves, you're able to rely on some of those kids that have been developing with you over the last couple of seasons?
Yeah, I think that's what every high school coach and every high school coach, the program itself is trying to get done. And I can just rely on my sub-varsity coaches and how hungry the kids are and how coachable they are. because I don't think we do anything special or anything different than other schools do. I think our kids are special, and I think their work ethic is special, and just their hunger to be coached at a high level. And so it comes down to the boys that we get. And like I mentioned, we're a K-12 charter school, so I think the relationships that we build is maybe something that not other teams can do, because I know these kids from first graders, fifth graders, meet them in middle school, and then by the time they get to the varsity level, there's just a nice relationship that's already built. The respect is there both ways. I respect all of our players, and so I think that's something that unique that we have at university.
And you're not the only program in that area, especially at 3A, that does a good job of churning out great players. Todd Hernandez has done a great job at Eaton. That 2020 season, I think that would have been Walker Martin's freshman year, but you had a stacked team coming back from that 2019 state championship. How much fun would that season have been to see that play out, and if you guys had gotten to the state tournament to face each other?
We think about it and we talk about it still to this day. I still have a lot of the same coaches on staff with me, and we always reminisce at times about the alumni guys or the guys that lost their senior year, because we had some good seniors that year, great senior leadership. But I know Resurrection Christian was going to be loaded that year. Delta Panthers on the other side of the state, they were going to be really good, and then Eaton's always good, and so it would have been a fun season, just like it is every year.
And then, since then, again, you continue to churn out players who just have big time impacts. And a kid I think about, and I bumped into him at state basketball, and this is why it jumps in my head. But, I think it was 2 years ago, you pretty much threw Gage Viken in there in a spot start in the state tournament. And you had to have a young kid, just really kind of hold down the fort for one game. And that kid did more than what was asked of him. And he's just turned into such a solid player, and I think a good leader for you guys. So, talk about Gage a little bit and kind of how he reflects what your program, is consistently able to do with its roster.
Well, just seeing that picture of sophomore Gage Viken, it makes me smile, because he's matured in so many ways, more than just physically. He is an actual pitcher, and he commands multiple pitches, and he can throw them any count for a strike. And it's been wild to see him mature as a player and a person. And he put us on his back that day, because if my memory serves correct, and it might not, but I'm pretty sure that was against a really good Bertha team that got up on us early. And we went with a right-hand pitcher that day, Caleb Tejada. We knew that he was going to throw strikes, and sometimes in state baseball, that's all you want. You just want a strike thrower, and you hope they hit the ball to you. And so Caleb did everything we asked him to do. They were just having a great offensive day. And so as coaches, we knew we had this little lefty in the bullpen, and that little lefty came in and shoved, and we got our barrels going. And that was a great come from behind win for us, and got us to the state championship, at least that year.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned something earlier, Coach, when you talked about playing for your high school. And we have a new issue of Mile High Sports coming out, and we have a great article, kind of a back and forth, pros and cons of club versus high school, and how they work together and maybe where they don't. In your experience, what are some of the challenges that high school baseball coaches are facing with club programs being so prominent now? And what are some of the benefits? And then lastly, what's the high school game provide that a club can never provide?
I'm going to tackle your last question first. What a high school program that maybe a club struggles with is we have the ability just to practice more. And I kind of think that should be the blueprint for baseball development. Instead of playing 6 games to 1 practice, we try to do it the other way, and 6 practices to 1 game. We don't always have that luxury once we're settled into season, but I just think from the ages 13 to 18, it's got to be all about development. So that's why I really appreciate being a high school coach, is because we have so much more opportunity to practice. Summers are crazy for everyone. And so I don't think the club can physically practice that much. Now, there's a lot of good clubs out there that I think for them, 2 or 3 practices a week is golden. But I know that there's a lot of clubs out there that just don't have that opportunity either. It's maybe one Wednesday practice and then they're back on the road for the weekend. And so I think that's the one thing that high school can offer. On the flip side of what club baseball does for high school, it's just running into bigger and better competition. They can travel all over the country. They can play in tournaments where there's showcases and they can be seen by college coaches. And so just getting their name out there and showcasing themselves and their talents, that's one thing that's tough to do at 3A baseball because there's not always high-level pitching and you speak about Walker Martin. That was one thing that made a lot of major league executives kind of nervous, is that he was coming from this small Colorado 3A league. What's he going to do at the next level? Because he doesn't get to face the Cherry Creeks or the Fossil Ridges or the Mountain Vistas or the high level baseball in Colorado. But I'm certainly glad the Giants took a risk with him, and I follow his career very closely, and I'm a huge fan of Walker Martin, and I'm glad that he's showing well in the Giants organization.
When I'm planning out my state championship coverage in the spring, my anchor point is always I'm going to be at 3A baseball, and then I will build everything else around it. I love working that tournament, one, because of the site directors and everyone. It is run so well and so clean. And John Haefeli has always been a big reason for that. I want you to tell me how emotional was last year, and you and I were both there with John going through what he did, being able to go out and throw the first pitch on championship Saturday before going home that same day and passing away after his battle with cancer. How emotional was that for you, for the program, for the school as a whole?
Yeah, Mr. Haefeli, he's been huge in my development as a coach, just looking up to him as a mentor and having a really good relationship with him. Really, since I've been the head coach at university, he has a lot of university ties, and he is a key figure in the Greeley community. And so that was a big motivational factor for us to get to that game last year, just to help honor him and just everything that him and his family went through. It was super emotional, and just seeing his pictures now kind of brings back the feels from that Saturday. And great man. He is missed every day, and I was very fortunate just to get to know him and hopefully help carry on his legacy here in Greeley and through university schools.
And it was funny because I talked with John Sullivan on my way home that day, and I think he and I were we had a lot of emotion about the whole thing for different reasons, because I'm trying to look at the positive of it, and I couldn't think of a better way to go out than to hang on to be able to throw that pitch at a place that you've done so much good. John, I think John carried a lot of guilt because he doesn't know if that had an impact with him maybe going sooner than later. But is there a more fitting tribute for a man to be able to come out and give him that honor, at that spot, especially with how physically tough that had to be for him?
No, I just think it just kind of highlights his work ethic and what drives him. We saw how physically hard it was for him that day, and going through a lot of stuff, even 10, 15 minutes before he was able to make that pitch. And just like John does, it was a strike right down the middle, and no questions asked about that. And I think I think it was a focal point for him. He wanted to get that pitch off, and he did everything in his power. And I'm very thankful for his family to letting all of the baseball community share that moment with him. And so it just shows you exactly who John Haefeli is. He's a grinder. He's a worker. And if he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it.
And I think that, my hope is, that kind of mentality can kind of translate to your team. And I mentioned Gage a few minutes ago, but before we let you go, Doug and I each have one more. I want you to give me 3 kids on your team besides Gage, because we've mentioned him, that we need to be paying attention to every week as we continue to talk about baseball.
I will start with Damian Alvarez. He is our shortstop, and he's our leadoff hitter this year. This past weekend, we went over to the Western Slope. He went 8 for 9 on the weekend with a handful of walks, couple triples, home run last week against Holy Family. I think he's hitting upwards of 675, somewhere around there right now. So Damian's definitely going to be a guy to keep your eye on. And then we also have Derek Casillas. He's going to be our second baseman and pitcher. He's our 2-hole. He already has 3 home runs this season. Last weekend in Rifle, he was our starting pitcher. He threw a complete game no-hitter in 5 innings. And after the top of the 5th, we came in and I kind of did a rally cry with the guys. And I said, hey, the no-hitter's already been done. And I know you're not supposed to talk about a no-hitter ever. I said, the no-hitter's done. Now it's up to us to go get that 1 run to end the game, because we were the home team. And so if we scored 1 run, game over. And so we get 2 outs pretty quick. Damian comes up and he gets on. And then Derek's up to bat with the winning run on second. And Derek hits a home run. And so he went complete game, no-hitter, walk-off home run in the bottom of the 5th.
To solidify his own no-hitter.
Yeah. I was hoping
that's clutch.
I was hoping the guys would pick him up and we'd just score a quick one. But once he got up with 2 outs and the winning run on second, he did what he needed to do. And it was a no-doubter. It was out of the yard in a hurry. And that was pretty cool for Derek. That's his first varsity start as a pitcher for us. And he did really well. And then I would say our third guy, it's going to be a big guy that we rely on to help extend our pitching staff. It's going to be our sophomore, Aiden Solano. And Dan, you saw him last spring, those last 4 innings against Cole Ridge. He gave up 3 hits in 4 or 5 innings. And so now he's a sophomore. He's 1 more year mature physically and mentally. And he's a big arm. He's going to be around mid 80s, and that's big for us. And so he gives us the opportunity just to extend our pitching staff past Gage Viken and Joel Ramirez. Joel Ramirez is another kid that's going to be huge for us. I could brag on him for a long time too. But those 3 guys, Gage, Joel, and Aiden Solano, it's honestly 3 aces that we're going to rely heavily on.
And that's what you need when you get to the state tournament. You need 3 arms, 3 very good, reliable arms.
At least 3.
Yeah, I'm no Billy Bean, but when you're throwing out things like 8 for 9 at the plate, complete game no hitters, I mean, these sound like pretty good things you got going, Coach. I'm going to twist Dan's question a little bit. And instead of three guys on your own team, I want you to give me 3 teams that you guys might face or that you're familiar with that you think will also factor in as we get into late May.
All right, that's a fun one. I'll start at the top. Those boys up north, the Eaton Reds, they're clicking on all cylinders right now. They're a well-coached team. Me and Coach Hernandez, we have a good relationship, and he's got a talented group this year. And I don't have to talk much about him, but Gunnar Garrison, he's a big arm, and Arizona State commit, touched 96 last week, and that's one thing that we'll have to get ready to face come April. And so obviously Eaton's going to be solid. We saw Colorado Academy earlier this year, and they just had one of those days in baseball where it didn't go their way, but I know that they're continuing to get stronger, and they're going to get better, and they're going to lengthen their lineup. They've got a really good pitcher in Kieran Delaney, and he's their shortstop. He's their leadoff hitter. And so starting with those 2, and then I honestly think Cole Ridge is going to be in the mix. Once they kind of find their groove, Montezuma Cortez is going to be solid. We play a team this week, Elizabeth. We play Elizabeth on Thursday, and Elizabeth is going to be really tough as well. And so you asked me to list 3. There's probably 5 or 6 teams that can win it all this year. And so we'll just get to May and see who peaks at the right time and see who can stay healthy. And I think just like the last 6, 7, 8 years, it's going to be a fun time at Butch Butler come late May.
which I'm always looking forward to. So the one thing, your one loss this year is to a Holy Family team that very much looks like it could be a threat in 4A. They're just a couple years removed from a state championship of their own. So, that's probably going to be a good game to have under your belt as you see tougher and tougher competition. And, maybe that team up north that you just mentioned. So the only other thing, Casey, is you can see these baseballs over my right shoulder. One of them is from 2018 from Butch Butler Field. I always try and swipe one from the state championship games that I've got. So that I work. I've got one signed by Coach Ramirez. So, your goal should be having to sign a baseball for me at the end of this year.
I hope I get that opportunity. While we're talking about stuff in our backdrop, let me clarify this nice little rainbow ribbon we have going on. We celebrated my daughter's 10th birthday yesterday, and so we still have some decor up around the house.
Outstanding.
No, you know what? It's if she's 10, then it's a birthday week. That's all I know.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you were doing something for your son, we'd see an issue of Mile High Sports Magazine with Bo Nix on the cover around there somewhere.
It's in his bedroom right now.
Awesome. Casey, thanks for joining us. We know you got to get going, get your boys to practice, but you will see me on the diamond at some point soon, I promise.
I can't wait. I always look forward to running into you.
All right. Have a good one, Casey.
Coach.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
I love chatting baseball with Casey. It gets me excited for a good season ahead. He's right along those guys with like Cheyenne Mountains. Mark Swope is a guy that I really enjoy chatting with. Mark Johnson, of course, back in the day for Cherry Creek. We're going to get more into the spring sports stuff later.